We're going to start today, after a great day yesterday, where we covered many topics. We're going to start with an operator panel. So if Robert Fish from Lux Aviation, Olivier Perdier from Skyfirst, and Guy Farnfield from Flying Group would like to come up. Historically, the operator panel has a reputation for the operators always complaining about how hard life is. And we're going to stick with that tradition as we go through it. Robert, how is business at Lux Aviation?
Well, good morning, and congratulations for those who make it at 9 o'clock. So I see that the room is filling up. I was not expecting that. So the simple answer would be, of course, fantastic. Never been better. Couldn't be better. No, let's be realistic. We are facing some issues, but they are not business related. They are more regulatory related, where I see a couple of interesting evolutions now coming up for the next years that will take quite some energy, efforts, and mostly money to comply with. So at the moment, in a sentence, I must say that business is holding up. We are developing the fleet. The margins remain stable. So we're expecting actually not such a positive outcome, so which is quite surprising.
You're not expecting?
No, I was not expecting that, and actually 2025 ended up much better than expected.
Okay.
No complaining?
No complaining. Complaining is fine.
It's too early for that.
So, wait, that's going to be a tough one. Well, I would say that the last 6 months were a bit tough, knowing the actual unpredictability of such a president. I'm not going to name, otherwise he's going to send helicopters here. I would say that, yeah, the last 6 months were a bit unpredictable. Therefore, we saw the clients holding back, probably less flying, generally speaking. But at some point, people get used to it. You cannot stop business forever. So the feeling we have is that business is starting again, early 2026. And the feeling is that we're going to have a back to normal, I would say, for 2026, with the complexity of our dear president or not. Yes, it was tough, but I think it will bring good business for the next few months.
Morning. It's tough out there.
No complaining.
No, it is fairly tough. I mean, conditions always are tough, but I can say from the Hyperion point of view and also into the bigger group of Flying Group, numbers for 24 were up. So we were better than 23. So that's positive. Sorry, numbers in 25 are better than 24, etc. But we do see challenges, as regulatory, you've just mentioned, and cost. But the biggest issue, probably the elephant in the room, is OEM supplies, keeping aircraft grounded. Yeah, so.
Okay, so it's interesting because I don't think you're all going to disagree. So are you seeing supply chains improving, Robert?
I'm going to make a lot of friends with the OEMs. So with some OEMs, yes. And others waiting, well, they're going to recognize themselves. 6 weeks to get a generator is simply unacceptable. I mean, that's not feasible. You cannot ground an asset for 6 weeks for something where we know that it has a limited life expectancy. So this needs to get much, much better.
Well, I don't think we ramped up after the COVID. When it went all down, people thought it would take 10 to 15 years to go back to normal business. It took 2 years. Plus, we never sold as many aircraft as the last few years. So all those accumulated, I think we're not close to getting back on track, being able to answer the demand for the new aircraft, for the old aircraft, which are flying more. We saw the numbers yesterday. It's the number of hours was growing in the last few years. So it's very tough, and I agree. We also had an aircraft for very long, waiting for an engine, so probably same as you. And so it's quite tough. To be truthful, the question is, are we going to get over it, and when? That is the big question. And I think it's going to be the question all the OEMs have to, they're asking it every day. And we'll have to work all together to make it work, because it's going to be a tough one.
I don't see an improvement in it at all, really. And as a sort of mid-sized to small boutique operator with 50 aircraft in the group.
That's more than boutique.
You know, I think we do get squeezed by the bigger operators who have the muscle in the market, and so we have to fight very, very hard to get our place in the queue. But the usual suspects of windscreens on Bombardier products are a nightmare for us. And, you know, we struggle with it, and, you know, the owners, you know, you have to manage that disappointment appropriately.
Have any of you lost an owner because they've finally gone, I can't take this anymore?
Yes. Yes, let's be open about it. It's a cyclical business. We know that we're going to have an owner probably around 7 years. So, and then there will be some changes. The changes can be a new aircraft, can be going completely out of the business. There's also some people who try the fractional side and then usually come back, because simply when we are used to the flexibility, I think that the two of us certainly agree on that. The flexibility that you have owning your own asset is simply unmatched. Else, why would you enter this kind of business? So yes, have we lost owners? Absolutely, absolutely. The worst possible way to lose an owner is because you had deficiencies in service. And this is an issue. If you lose an owner because of that, if business is going bad for the ownership and so on, there's not much you can do. But if you are the cause of losing the ownership, then you need to put in some remedial action in place.
Yes, it happened, losing an owner, and it is true that we can be as optimistic as we want, telling them that we're going to go over for aircraft being on ground. But at some point, if owning an aircraft has a increasing cost, which is skyrocketing, and with, in a certain way, no limits, because you never know when it's going to stop, then at some point, as you were just saying, they go for other options, either fractional owning or cards, because they see less risk. So it was already complex to operate an aircraft when everything was normal and keeping the owners happy. And now with, when you have 4 months grounded for a maintenance issue, well, and he said, the owner says, I'm going to sell and change. It's difficult to not agree, unfortunately. So I think, yeah, we have to be very careful on that, and try to understand also, as a business, that we're all paid by the end by the owner. From buying to operating, fuel, whatever, they're paying for it. So that's our money, and we have to keep it as wide as possible. So anytime we see an owner that could leave business aviation also, we all together have to try to find a way to keep him, because it's our food.
We haven't lost one yet, but you know, you can sense the frustration. I think I'd like to say that it's probably we have a backup solution for them. I mean, I have a case today, one of the owners wants to fly tomorrow in the Aircross AOG, but if you go with the solution, then you can mitigate. I think it was Algie yesterday in one of the panels was talking about, you know, you can make money out of owning an aeroplane, but if you buy an aeroplane and you give it to me, don't expect to see it. I think people who own aircraft, the asset, they buy convenience, and that's what they want. And so the inconvenience of not having your aircraft available is what you're trying to protect. So if you do have an AOG situation, then you've got to have the resources of a backup aircraft to fill in that hole. That's it.
So 33% of the room say supply chains are improving.
How many supply chain people there is in the room?
I was going to say 33%.
33%.
That was it's going up.
Robert, Guy thinks that he has to fight because he's a smaller operator. Is life easy for the bigger operators to get parts?
No, we are subject to the same rules. We have the same problems. Of course, there's a buying power that gives you an advantage, and also the location that you are local, basically, on quite a few continents. So from Mexico to Asia, we are present apart in the United States. So I wouldn't say that it's going to be easier. What is more difficult is to apprehend the local complexity. We have some of our AOCs that are in Europe, where we are seeing at the moment a complexity due to the interpretation of some of the rules. And I think you know who I'm talking about. So where you see that one of the bigger registry in Europe suddenly has a massive loss of airplanes, and that the Civil Aviation Authority simply does not do anything about it. I think it's a rather sad situation, but on the other hand, that means that it gives opportunity to others. So is it going to be better for a bigger operator? Well, we have maybe a little bit more flexibility because we can live across the tax life of an aircraft. So if there's an opportunity to optimize taxation from one country to the other, we usually have a solution in place. So that is maybe a very good a prime advantage, and then also being local in most markets. So yes, there are some advantages.
And not applicable? Skyfirst being a boutique hotel, I would say that we don't have that problem yet. But I would say that on our size, regulation, as we're all agreeing on, is getting really complex.
Which, you know, a lot of people in this room don't operate aircraft. Why is it getting more complex?
Do we really need to answer that question? Why is it getting more complex? Well, first of all, regulations, we're piling up 300 pages extra in regulation every year or so. By the way, since UK left, the number of pages in the regulation increased by 2 or 3 times, I think. We're very good French to add up pages when it comes to regulations. So, yeah, the regulation is becoming complex. We have new rules, the refuel, the security, which are very interesting rules, to be politically correct, but I don't see what it brings to safety or to the efficiency of the operations. So all those things brings resources that we have to allocate to something that is not bringing us business. And we were already struggling 10 years ago. So now we have to face those extra regulations. We need more people we have to declare more taxes, declare more CO2. Even the systems for the declarations are not very clear. I mean, how do you declare your CO2? Well, it depends from where the aircraft started, where it went, how many passengers you had, and the size of the engine in the country you're going in. So, I mean, it's very complex, generally speaking, and the people that are rule-making are not bringing simplicity. They're adding up and piling up complexity to that. So being an operator, I mean, the last 3 years, I would say, we're more focusing on managing those extra rules rather than developing the business. I don't know if you have the same issue.
Well, the complexity on the regulation is that we are not making. Is it time to run?
I think it's outside. We'll just keep going for a second. I think it might be a fire alarm. Not a fire alarm, a burglar alarm outside. Well, I don't think this is the hotel fire alarm.
So we are all very safety triggered and nobody's moving in the room, so that's absolutely fantastic.
Where is the complaints manager?
So on the regulatory side, a dream, a hope, maybe, is to have our Part 135 one day in Europe. We are still bound to the rules, to take the American system as an analogy, of Part 121. It cannot be that us three, we are bound to the same rules as British Airways or Air France. That's ridiculous, at best. And try to make that understand to somebody who comes from the outside. It's absolutely impossible to comprehend. So we need to have a set of rules that are prone to develop business aviation in Europe. I mean, let's not forget, we are the biggest market in the world. Does it feel like the biggest market lately when you see the news or the geopolitical situation? Not really. Why? Because there's simply no unity. So maybe one day we're going to have a set of rules. I heard it from the precedent head of EASA, and the actual one is also preaching it, But do you see anything developing? I hope that we're going to get there one day. It cannot be that we are bound to the same rules as the major airlines. That is simply, it's eroding our margins. The margins are already single digit. We cannot increase the pricing. So how is that going to work?
Say, we're depressing everyone this morning.
Well, now comes the good questions, I hope.
Now I think we'll stop and go and have a drink. The other problem we've touched on, so regulation, no change in the next 2-3 years. It's just going to get worse.
Well, most probably.
In Europe, yes.
In Europe.
They've integrated a new tool for the simplification on the VASA, which I recommend everyone to go on. You can put in a paragraph, very specific, where you believe it's not proper and offer a new position if you want to improve it. But problem is we're looking at the small details, why we should look at the big one.
Okay, so we've talked about the problem you have with parts. We've talked about the problems you have with regulation. And I think the third thing, Guy, you touched on was the rising costs, the inflation for owners, that it's getting more expensive to own an aircraft. You'd all agree with that?
Oh yes, it gets more expensive. I mean, there's not only what Guy says, but also you have to put also the factor time. The fleet is aging, and the costs are also increasing on that. As an example, I have an airplane that has now 8 years in maintenance this week. The preliminary costs were 100,000. Now we had 300,000 for a yearly inspection. So that was slightly higher than what was expected. So that you have also to take into consideration. Luckily, our fleet is completely managed. We don't own one airplane. So the costs are forwarded to the ownership. But on the other hand, you have also to do a lot of explaining to the ownership why suddenly you have to pay 3 times the price.
And I think you just said the owners aren't taking a rise in management fees. The management fees are still very competitive. And we have a question from Graham in the audience. Are management fees enough to cover your overheads?
Not at all. I mean, 0 is not a management fee. And that's what we see recently. So that's something that is quite, I mean, I created Skyfirst 14 years ago. And I saw the prices go up for everything. I mean, every year you take 3% here, 5% here. But our management fees are the same or even getting lower. So, I mean, I think competition is good. But at some point, I think we should be careful not to kill each other while doing it. And this is something we have to care about, I believe, because you were saying, how is it for an owner? Yes, owning an aircraft is much more expensive today, but you also need to have an operator and us to protect your asset and try to make it as efficient as possible or as cost-effective as possible. You were talking about the maintenance. Yeah, well, there are issues. We had a 60 months maintenance. It started at 100K, ended up at 1 million. So it's very, I mean, our job now is also to do some geopolitics and communication with the owners. It's always been, but it's even more now, you know. How do you explain starting with a 100 quote, ending up with 1 million? And everybody knew it was going to be 1 million. That's the normal stuff. So, yeah, it's very difficult. It's more expensive. We need to dance a little bit more with our owners and try to find a good way of, you know, to speak with them. So I think us or operators have to, I mean, you were saying the word unity earlier, and I really believe it's about time that we get a little bit unity over the operators and the business to go against regulation, but also to try to make something that is viable for everyone.
Yeah, you know, it's a good question, isn't it? And the answer is no, we don't get paid enough. I think what it leads us to is finding different revenue streams, whilst also maintaining that transparency that the owners want. You know, you're trying to build that level of trust and that relationship. We, as an example, we annualize an increase. We put it in the contract because, you know, we don't want to have a contract that is flat rated for the next 5 years. And, you know, it's good that we could get an owner for 5 years, but you've got to be realistic because we're giving salary increases to everybody in the infrastructure. It's a highly technical job to execute. Managing an asset, however small they are, it still requires the same amount of technical knowledge and expertise and man hours as if it was a large airliner. So the willingness for owners to fork out a decent management fee, I mean, they need educating perhaps in what that involves, and it's a very complex thing to explain to them. So, you know, I'm not saying we're going to go as far as selling scratch cards on flights and things like that, as some people do, but, you know, if we manage an aircraft, we would like to see the ability to charter, and we predict how much we can earn from chartering. So that revenue stream that we can add to has got to hit our benchmark number. But if it's a straight if somebody approaches us and says, we want to do straight management, we have a pretty good idea that we won't hit that person because it's not worth our while doing it for the price that they're coming to the table at. And we're not in the game of, you know, running to the bottom dollar level. Let somebody else do it. And you get what you pay for.
Well, underlying on that question, there's also another thought. So let's take the example of a global. I think we all can agree here in the room for a global flying about 400 years, you have a budget of 6 million a year. So you have management fee that represents 3% of that. So do I have to say more?
What I don't understand, though, is that, and I'm not undervaluing what you guys do, because I think everyone in the room will agree that the management company probably has more to do with keeping an owner happy and keeping them in the industry than anyone else. You know, your job, your relationship. I don't understand why people like you keep launching new ones. Keep launching new operators. Because it's low margin, it's super competitive, and there's no sign of it becoming less competitive.
Now comes the optimistic side.
Well, the problem with aviation, I think the room is full, it's a passion. I mean, once you get in and you put your finger in, either you run away very far or you stay and you know, you start loving it. So despite the complexity and all the problems we're facing, it's still one of the most passionate jobs in the world. I mean, we do crazy stuff. We bring people in places that we don't even know the name in the first place. So, I mean, I became very good at geography with my kids, better than them, because I know airports that, you know, and cities that they don't even know exist. So, I mean, the positive part is sometimes you do a very nice flight or you end up resolving a very big problematic situation, and that keeps you going on. I mean, that's the nice thing, the adrenaline we get in this business as an operator. We always have a problem. You know, when a flight is starting, this is when the problem starts, because you may have an AOG coming in. So everybody has to be ready, and that's what we do. We're ready to, you know, find another aircraft, make a troubleshooting, whatever. So that adrenaline makes us going. I don't know if it's the same for you, but it's been for the last 14 years, and I think it's going to continue going on.
Yeah, it's sexy, isn't it? People want, you know, there was the TikTok discussion that was going on yesterday. People just want to be involved with it, but the margins are terrible, aren't they? So, you know, I think anybody who wants to start an operation now with one aircraft, you would really, really, really struggle because of the complexity of regulation and all the rest of it.
You need an owner with a wide pocket.
Yeah. Have you got one?
A good sponsor. No. Looking for it.
So 2016 was actually an interesting date that you put in here. I came to the group, well, at the time it was only one operator, and I came from a group that we had around 60 airplanes based in Vienna, and when I came to Lux Aviation, we had one airplane and 835 euros on the account. So a couple of years later...
Is it more or less now?
So a couple of years later, we have more airplanes, but less money on the account, but trying to get by. So why would you start it? Simply because of the challenge of the passion. And I mean, come on, our industry is absolutely fantastic. It's, I mean, we are the Formula One of aviation. Our airplanes are the tip of technology. I was looking earlier at that beautiful video from Bombardier, when you see then suddenly Mach 9.5. I mean, you're going places at that speed. So just thinking about the technology that is behind it, that means that they had to test an airplane above Mach 1 just to certify it. So, And that is, our industry is just representing a challenge, but not only on the technology side, but also the people. The people with whom we are working is very interesting, very complex relations. And if you see here the people, we're going to meet again in 3 months at eBase. We're going to see each other at the end of the year somewhere else. So it's a big family. At the end of the day, it's what brings that added value, where the single-digit margin becomes then a second relevance. It needs to remain positive, of course, else we are out of a job tomorrow. But that's what makes the challenge worth it.
So the question I was going to ask is, could you do now, the difference between launching now in 2026 versus 2016, do you think it's 20% harder than it would have been 10 years ago, 30% harder?
It's different. It's very different. So if I would start with the same amount of knowledge or experience, I think we can agree on that, then you would probably know some of the shortcuts who ultimately cost a lot of patience, money, and time. So would it make sense to launch a company in 2026? Everything depends on the business model. If the business model is, I'm going to buy 3 airplanes with my own funds and then try to make some money out of charter, I'm not sure if that's going to work. But you said now we're in the optimistic place. If there's another purpose behind it, for example, you see some operators who launch with 1 airplane, but they are part of a larger group and they need the financial losses probably of the operator to use them somewhere else in the group. Why not? But then that's a larger scheme. You cannot see it as a single airplane model AOC. So because this has a completely different purpose. So it depends on the business plan.
Well, I started with a Learjet 45 14 years ago. So I would say back in the days, in 2016 and earlier, you could launch yourself with 1 small aircraft and try to make it to the second one, not losing too much money, make a lot of human investment, reduce team. You could start with a camo, 3 pilots, 1 or 2 external. I don't think this is possible anymore today. I think if you want to launch a company today, you have to have a business plan with investors, and it's really a different startup, I would say. I mean, if someone starts with a small aircraft, today I think it would be very complex. Nonetheless, it's also good to have new competitors coming in and opening maybe sometimes new ideas and challenging us into what we do. But I think it's very much different as of today. Probably less fun as well.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge, isn't it? But there's a thing about having your own AOC. I mean, we talk to lots of people who, contact us and saying, "Can we piggyback on the back of your AOC? That's where the value is." And we honestly say to them, "Yeah, if that's what you want to do, you want a journey of setting up on your own, use our AOC for a period of 2 years until you can gain the experience, and away you go." But to start from scratch is, I mean, it's huge overheads to get it going. With all the people that you need to appoint.
Roughly how much do I need? Because you've sold me on this as a business.
Depends on the aircraft type you're going to start with, doesn't it?
I'm going big.
But I mean, if let's take an average of 6 months to get an AOC from one of the quick people, a year longer on one of the not so quick. You imagine that payroll just going out the door, office rent, all the rest of it. And these are highly technical people who want the dollar.
And you need good people to be efficient.
Yeah.
I'd say between, 500 to 1 million, maybe?
I would put it up towards 1 million.
You're not getting on top, you're just starting. So then the hard work is starting, because then you need to operate on a daily basis, managing all the problems and all the... Yeah. So it's great to start, but then you have to make a name, and create everything. So it's good. You need to have a business plan. I think that's really the thing.
Okay, we've got some great audience questions. Do we have anyone in the room would like to make a question or a comment? It is quite a lot of people in the room. I can see why people are going on Slido. Right. Are
They are all depressed now after what we said.
No, we got cheery. It got better. Are operators still advocating for maintenance programs?
I think it depends on the age of the aircraft and what the owner wants. Many owners that we have feel comfortable buying into the program, they feel secure, and that's the way it goes. But certainly the older aircraft that are coming out of programs or reach certain hours, you go through an overhaul of engines, etc., then they develop their own models with us to say, yeah, okay, we'll accumulate outside of an approved program.
Yeah, well, programs is easy. I mean, you just, as I said, owners are happy about it. It's easier to manage. Is it more efficient on the long run? I'm not sure, because I think the negative side maybe of the programs is that people, I mean, even the maintenance facilities, which most of them are bought back by the MROs, are used to, you know, changing parts, etc., etc. So I think that doesn't help on the long run for the parts issue. We were repairing much more back in the days than we are today. So the programs, yes, it's an easy fix, depending on the age of the aircraft, of course. But I mean, we have some aircraft under programs in our fleet, and we have extra maintenance, large amount that are coming out of the programs with things that are not included in the end. So yeah, even the programs are getting hard to explain.
Yes and no, of course. It will protect the value of the asset, undoubtedly. So for that, I think it makes sense. On the other hand, are we talking about a single airplane compared to somebody who has 200 of those engines and then talks with the OEM? So we have to compare what is comparable. So if you have 200 of those engines and you can leverage it to a way that the New York court is going to rule in your favor, it's all going to be fine. But if you have only one airplane and there are simply no spare parts, the airplane model is brand new, that's the way it is. So are you probably better off with one or two airplanes on programs? Most probably, yes.
And it makes your conversations easier. If something goes wrong catastrophically, it's not your problem.
Well, the finger pointing goes the other way around.
It's always our problem. we're the one to dance and, you know, and explain the things. It's not always easy.
Just to add one thing, interestingly, the brokers that approach us about aircraft that are available always want aircraft that are not on programs.
The brokers?
Yeah, we prefer no programs on an airframe.
Colin Brickman is saying, regarding delays due to parts supply, shouldn't operators consider joining parts consignment plans outside of OEM programs? We have several clients who do this.
I think that depends on fleet size, doesn't it? And if you've only got 1, 2 aircraft of the same type in your operation, then it's probably expensive to buy into that. You know, if you've got 10 plus aircraft in a fleet, and getting fleet commonality, then maybe you're onto something, but it's fairly unusual in corporate. Unless, Colin, you've got something to tell us.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and it's all about cashing out. Putting some cash out again to protect the interest of the owners. So why not? Problem is, once again, the operators are always the one financing everything. Should it be this way? I'm not sure. And I think, as we said, everything is complex today, so having to cover us on everything is sometimes hard. We need a little bit of support.
Which is a good answer to that question, which why are larger operators not keeping potential routine fail spares as part of their inventory?
Which spare part? Which airplane? So it's impossible. Anyway, also the spare part, if you would have the right spare part, you can be sure that it's going to be on the other side of the world. And then it's going to be on the weekend, and customs will be closed, and it's impossible to get the part from left to right. Just try to get a fire extinguisher from one side of the world to the other. It's tricky. So airline-wise, where you have a fleet unification, of course, But for us, I'm not sure if we have reached that maturity yet.
Should new owners, we've got a lot of maintenance program questions. Should new owners push for a dispatch reliability level rather than just a traditional engine maintenance program? Has anyone had any experience of this?
That's what we call a crystal ball. You know, trying to I mean, dispatch reliability. What does that mean? I mean, you can have no problem on an engine, and then another aircraft, same engine, has all the problem in the world. So, yes, it would be great to have something with a dispatch reliability rather than the normal one. But would anyone offer it? That's the question, I think.
So the way I understand the question is new airplane, not new owners. So let's face it, when you get a new airplane, the first 200 hours are a challenge. A challenge for the operator, a challenge for the OEM, for the clients, where you know the first 200 hours, everybody needs to play ball. So many of the OEMs go really out of the way to supply then a different way of transportation, are chartering, are spending a lot of money on that, are trying to do the utmost to get the spare parts at the right spot. So the first year of operation is always a challenge on new airplane. So that's how I interpret that question.
Okay, if EASA regulations are becoming more complex, do offshore registries, which offer AOCs, become a more viable option?
So before I answer that, I have to disclose something. I'm the managing director of Lux Aviation San Marino. So, of course, it's the best choice. No, jokes apart. The regulations are becoming more complex. There's no way around. How we navigate on it is that's our trade. So are the offshore now the answer to it? Not necessarily, because depends on the profile that you're looking at. If your business is to do charter within Europe, and offshore is not necessarily going to be the right choice, because you are simply limited. It's not going to work. If you do limited charter from and to Europe or UK to third country, yeah, that's going to work. If you're looking for a regulatory body that is highly considered by banks, financiers, and so on, then maybe some of the offshore registers like San Marino are definitely an option. But everything depends where you're based. If you're based now mainland Europe, UK, it's going to be a further challenge than an answer.
Yeah, well, I agree. I mean, we face sometimes some competition. We don't have a San Marino one. I think one of the issues would be more on the European side, which is we're adding so much rules that it's becoming more complex. The others are not. Therefore, we are the ones shooting ourselves in the foot in the first place. That is something EASA needs to think about, which is if you don't want to kill all your operators and have them put their AOCs or registration elsewhere, we need to be a bit more efficient and a bit simplifying things. On the other hand, I also believe that regulation, should be more close to each other and resembling more on the operation side, which if we talk about FTLs, if we talk about things like that, having too much differences between offshores or not offshores, I don't think it's helping us. Just offshore world, I think the word offshore is not really good, even for business jets, stating some owners are putting their aircraft offshore, trying to do things, I think on the long run, it's not the best things to do. So it is clearly a very good option today. EASA should look at it as a reducing and simplifying things, but on the other hand, I think everybody should be on the proper, same level, if I may say.
Yeah, I think there's a place for it, but it depends on what the owner's wanting out of the asset.
Sticking with EASA, what about EASA Appendix S versus Part 135 for smaller business jets?
I think we have to look at the number of pages that and the regulations are asking for both. I think it's a tenth of the number of pages, so that gives you the simplicity and it's much easier.
Okay. Maintenance, Scott Thompson is asking, maintenance aside, how important is fleet modernization, i.e. keeping the aircraft competitive against new aircraft, connectivity, interior refurbs, etc.?
It's all down to the owner. But our business, the core of our business model is about the relationship with the owners. I have owners who just say, time in the aircraft for me is time away from everything, and they don't want connectivity. And yet there are others who have, the kids on board, and they want live streaming and, middle of the Atlantic, et cetera, et cetera. So it depends. And good owners are aware about having to keep aircraft up to date. They get to a certain point, and the costs, they can see them going up if they're financially managed properly. And what is it going to cost them to get into the new asset, and how those operating costs come down. But we have those discussions, but it's ultimately up to the owner as to whether they're going to decide to upgrade or keep going into the same asset.
I think it also depends if you're doing charter or not. Clearly on charter, we're doing charter. The connectivity now is a must. I mean, we had an antenna out for 3 weeks on an aircraft. People were not chartering the aircraft. So internet and connectivity is kind of it has to be done. Since COVID, before that was not really the case. Now it's a must. Interior refurb is the same, even though sometimes I would say the quality of the service could compensate for it, but definitely connectivity is a must. So when it comes to SkyFirst, we're really pushing our owners on that. I think there are a couple of solutions that came out recently. We're not going to name them, but yeah, I think it's a must, and we have to keep up the modernization going, even for older aircraft. But if we do that, that means the older aircraft will stay longer on the market, so we'll have more and more aircraft, and we need more and more parts. So please build some parts.
How many of your owners don't have connectivity?
As Guy said it earlier, it depends really from owner to owner. There are some people who are just saying, this is my moment of disconnect, and just leave me alone.
I quite admire them.
Yeah. And others are, as you said, where you have the kids and everybody has his iPad, and they are Netflixing the whole way. So it's so difficult to say. So there's an answer for each airplane.
Do we have any other questions anyone wants to ask? You don't have to catch a microphone. We can have one brought to you. Okay, someone is saying all regulations should be based on ICAO annexes. When a national authority gold plates the ICAO standards, the industry should respond with their voice or feet.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a lot of should in that question.
I could hear the roar of the crowd as we...
that would help, definitely, to simplify things.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just going through the...
Just going there, I would say one idea, for example, because we're struggling a lot on the pilots, the contracts of the pilots in Europe, depending on the country we're on. So one example could be to have one European type of contract for all the pilots, for example, with the same taxis everywhere. I mean, those could be things we could think about.
A single contract for...
it's the same contract with same taxes wherever country you are on, dedicated to the pilot, because you can have an AOC in Malta, an aircraft in France, and a pilot based in Germany. Where do you pay him? That's the big question.
We've got EBAA questions, but we have actually got Stefan Benz speaking later, so I'll save those for him. Robert, what is Lux Aviation's thinking relaunching a broker? And how is it going?
Well, I think somebody is referring to Lux Aviation 1. We had issues in the last years to get to receive a rapid answer on some of the requests. So of the fleet that we represent, about half of it are available for charter. It's a fleet that remains quite busy. So sometimes you need to answer an AOG, you need to have supplemental lift and so on. And the reactivity was not always there. So, and there was a gap between our direct clients, and then the clients that were from the brokers, and then an untouched market share. So, and Lux Aviation 1 was created to respond to that untouched market share, but also to look at the market when we need a rapid answer on how we can provide it also internally. So it is a standalone company, it is part of the group, but it has its own business model and it's not related to any of the operators. So it's just a broker like any other broker, with all the respect that I have for our colleagues in the brokerage.
The Americans call this a brokerator.
Kind of.
They have a name for everything. That's how nice.
Okay, nice question. Putting price wars aside, what is the key unique selling point that will let an owner choose a certain operator over another?
I'd probably say trust, building that relationship, and then you're back to the old question, what comes first, the aircraft or the discussion about who the operator is going to be. Once you got that level of trust, then I think you're there. Price becomes a secondary thing, as long as it's not too much over the top.
Well, I agree. I would say, I mean, the good stuff would be to say trust and transparency.
Yeah.
But I think, and I wouldn't say unfortunately, but I think marketing nowadays is very important. Showing, I mean, you have operators with one aircraft showing, if you look at their website, you have the impression they have hundreds of aircraft. So yes, it should be, and I wish only about trust and transparency. Sometimes it's also marketing, I believe, unfortunately. But price, okay, we can put it aside, but I think it's unfortunately a big driver.
Apart that, I think we are there to provide a solution. And the solution is to travel needs or to other needs. It's not necessarily aviation related. From the moment that you have built up that relationship with an aircraft owner, can be a discussion about something else. I mean, you have a daily contact with all your aircraft owners, and I guess it's like me. The first couple of minutes is about the kids and other issues completely unrelated to the business. And then the business is done in 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Like, okay, I need to do this. Is that okay for you? Yeah, go ahead. Or was this budgeted? Yes, it was budgeted at the beginning of the year. Okay, let's do it. So, and I think that is where it's important to have that relationship. I think you need also to be honest enough when you see that the relationship is going sour to transfer that relationship and to step aside and to say, okay, things happened for whatever reason, and a future is here not guaranteed anymore. So then maybe it's time to transfer that ownership to somebody else or to another operator also. And if the ownership now is transferring to a place where we are not present, why not give it to another operator? So let's not work against each other and just say, okay, we're going to open now in Papua New Guinea and AOC because we have there one owner. No, there are certainly some very good people there who take very good care of airplanes that are based there. Let's transfer the airplane. And then maybe one day they transfer an airplane back to you. Happened already.
You've changed. 5 years ago, Lux Aviation would have been buying an operator in Papua New Guinea.
There's nothing to buy.
You have looked. How should an owner benchmark operators?
Take the cheapest. That question is impossible to answer. It's impossible.
Difference between how should they and how do they?
I would say look at the team behind. What I feel sometimes is owners believe with 2 pilots in a flight attendant you make an aircraft fly and operate completely. And they tend not to see the entire teams that are behind, dispatchers, financial, compliance, technical. I mean, you have a wide range of different people working different businesses, and I would recommend to look at those people and see if they appreciate what they're doing, understand what they're doing, if they are to the level of what they're expecting. Because those are the people in the dark that are actually going to make the aircraft fly, and at least 80% of the job. So I would recommend to look at the people that are making the company.
But the thing, if I can come back to that, in the last year and a half, You've probably seen the same evolution, but the ownership has also changed. We have suddenly a new breed of owners. The typology is around 40 years old, very IT literate, and where the first airplane is a G650 or global. And they basically contact you via Instagram, or you get an email, or via LinkedIn. I bought an aircraft, can you take care of it? And it's like, I beg your pardon? And then, yeah, I just bought a G650, but it's a second-hand or pre-flown. I don't want to upset Steve Bassano. So a pre-flown aircraft, and I have already another on order. And those are people who never had an airplane before, but they go right away on the top of the line. So we have now almost a dozen of those airplanes that came in from nowhere, did not see it coming, and then suddenly they are there from one day to the other and say, okay, operate my aircraft.
And I would add that they sometimes come to you and tell you they know better how to operate because they've done it on their business.
Do they communicate with you by phone or by WhatsApp?
Or WhatsApp. WhatsApp works really good.
So you could get AI in to handle those customers?
Oh, no, never. No.
What's, without naming names, actually someone has just done, how should an operator benchmark an owner? Without naming names, what is your perfect client like?
Somebody pays the bills on time.
It was the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, pay the bills on time, at least prepared to understand and the complexity of the job that you're actually trying to deliver for them. And that's the difficult bit, is educating them in that sometimes. And there are clear, distinct differences between some of our owners, some who are in that sort of, can I say, upper echelon of business, that they understand how things work and they accept that you are a professional outfit that's delivering a professional service. And, they ask certain questions, but generally they let you get on with it. And it's building the relationships, besides that top level, with the teams below that, whether it be finance to finance, the PAs to key account management, the OCC dispatch teams, etc. And where needed, if they employ flight crew directly, how the flight ops and training people interact with them, because crews are integral at keeping owners happy, because they are the ones who are locked in the airplane for a matter of hours, and they're the ones that the owner invariably goes and speaks to. So if you've not got crew on your side, you've got somebody probably who will be working against you.
And if possible, involve us from the beginning of a project. So when you are looking eventually for a new airplane or sell your asset, just involve us. There's a pretty good idea. We have usually a pretty good idea on what are the needs and what are also the budgets. And the best counsel is not necessarily the friend who has a PPL and is at the local aero club. We probably have a little bit of an advantage in knowledge. So it's the thinking ahead and not when things have already happened.
As Guy said, I think for us, a very good owner is one that respects the complexity of the job and trust the team and trust you into the decision you make and try not to tell you what you are. Pays on time. I think it's something that is very, very important as well to continue working. But yeah, the respect of what we're doing, the human approach is very important, especially for a boutique-size company. For us, having a very good relation with our owners is very important. And as Robert was saying, all owners are not made for all operators, so sometimes you have to let them go. It's fine, as long as we keep them for us together.
And Mike Francis from City is asking, are these younger owners asking for different services or needs than older owners?
Not necessarily, but the pace is much faster. So the invoice cycling, for example, is much quicker. The payment is also much faster, but then the expectations are also higher. Like, I want my airplane available 24 hours. Okay, this is feasible, but then we need to increase the crews. Then let's have it done. but I want it tomorrow. So then that's the moment where you start then to bargain and then just build your relationship.
Yeah, the connectivity on board is one thing that the younger generation want. But it's, as you said, it's the instantaneous gratification. We want it now. That's generally what we feel.
Yep, totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, final question. Is your job going to get easier or harder in 2026?
I'm going to answer that completely differently. Is the best job. I love it. So is it going to be harder, more difficult? Just part of the game, but just love it. Couldn't think doing anything else.
You see, that is the cheeriness we've been looking for the last.
Yes.
No, I agree. I mean, I don't think it's going to get harder. I think we're going to get probably more challenges, but it's also a reward. Every time we handle a challenge and make it happen, it's also what makes us keeping going, as I was saying earlier. So I don't think it's going to get harder. I just think we're going to get different challenges, and it's going to be interesting. And as I was saying, 26 is a good year. We have to make it that way.
Yeah, we get more experience every day, don't we? So we've, all the fun's been knocked out of us already. So I think it's going to remain the same. We'll keep going.
And on that upbeat note, thank you very much.
Thank you.